Well, for Canadians who already have debt that feels out of control, there are some options, and some are better than others. Bruce Hodges is founder and co-CEO of Parachute. Bruce, thanks for being with us.
Great to be here.
So there are options, and we've alluded to this already, including these high interest loans. But I want to kind of back up and ask, do you think that people actually seek out the help that is available to them in time, or do we tend to see it happening too late?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question, Amanda. I think generally people delay, which is very unfortunate, which makes the problem that much worse. So I think there are good options, many of them self-help options, but I think you're bang on. People wait too long, which makes the problem that much worse.
And if you had to give sort of some basic bit of advice of where to start, somebody figures they've got a problem, they don't want to leave it too late. What do you think is sort of the beginning point for somebody trying to get a handle on debt?
So I think to that point we just talked about is, take accountability. Nobody is going to come and save you. I'm sorry to say that's a bit of tough love. And then dig in. So the foundation has to be informational and getting as much knowledge as you can. And there's some great resources for that. In the lower income segment, I would look to the tools. There's some great tools by Prosper Canada. They have the mytrove.org, which gives you great information on how to deal with debt, budgeting, and so forth. Their Benefits Wayfinder, which allows you to find additional income sources and deal with debt. In the other spaces, the FCAC has a great site with some great resources. So that talks about the informational side, and then it's time to reach out to some of the services.
So once people do know that they need some help, Bruce, what's the kind of best option? Because we often talk about these payday loan services, the high interest loans. They're not all the same though, right? How can they tell the difference?
In the lower to middle income segment, there's some great options. So there's community-based financial empowerment providers. Great examples like here in Toronto, West Neighborhood House, Resolve Counseling, and some hands-on counseling that are great choices. As you get up into the middle income segment is where it gets much more difficult. And as you said, there's the payday lenders, high interest lenders, there's licensed insolvency trustees, and then there's the credit counselors. And this is a bit of a minefield for people to navigate.
We have seen a recent rule change. It'll come into effect months and months from now, but that will cap the interest rates on some of those loans. And you and I have talked before about this. I think you think that's generally a positive thing.
Yeah, the change in the cap is great news for Canadians. There's 8 million Canadians that have credit scores under 700, and this will help north of 7 million of those. That comes into effect January 1st, 2025, so a little bit of a ways out, but that'll push rates down to a cap of 35%. Still high rates, and when you're talking about people in financial trouble, going to a high interest or payday lender is, like throwing them an anchor as opposed to a life jacket, but it's an improvement in the legislation, which will go a long way to helping consumers.
So on that point, I guess I want to ask you, would you suggest to people that they look at other alternatives before going to what feels like a last resort of one of those? 34% is still a really high rate of interest. And let's remember, people are doing it because they didn't have anybody to turn to. Is that kind of putting them into a cycle that's going to be hard to get out of?
Yeah, I think it's exceedingly difficult if you go to a high interest or payday lender. In certain instances that may help. I think they need to really dig in and look at their spending, try and crack down on that spending, and there are other options. If you're right against the wall, there are the licensed insolvency trustees for a bankruptcy or consumer proposal. You can do that anonymously, you can explore it and learn, but understand it is a product that they're selling, so you're likely to come out with a consumer proposal or bankruptcy. Similarly, if you go to a credit counselor, research has shown that the predominant product that they are selling is actually a debt management proposal, which is again an insolvency. So consumers need to be very wary about what they're signing up for, do the research, and explore the various options.
Bottom line, we're talking a lot about financial literacy and how much we don't know. Do you think that's getting better, or do you think the most vulnerable people are the least likely to actually know what they need to know?
So I think literacy, Canadian literacy isn't terrible. It's got a ways to go, but it's one of the better in the developed world. I think consumers need to continue to invest in this. There's a lot of great resources. As I mentioned, you can go to Prosper Canada's site. You can go to the FCAC. So that is the best place for consumers to start.
Bruce, so good to have you for this. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Amanda.
Bruce Hodges is founder and co-CEO of Parachute. Coming up, we all know we should start saving early. What else is on the list of good advice that we should stop ignoring? Stay with us.